In terms of masking guidance, as our positivity rates continue to decrease and rates of vaccination and natural immunity increase, many communities are dropping mask requirements. We'll continue to encourage masking for those who are immunocompromised and at high risk of complications related to COVID, or those who live with immunocompromised people, as well as for those who simply feel safer when masked. The recent update in CDC guidelines on masking uses a community level of COVID to guide masking behaviors. In counties where the virus is at a low or medium level, the CDC is saying that masking is generally not necessary, and they recommend staying up to date with your COVID vaccine. In counties with high community COVID levels, CDC suggests masking in indoor public places. As of last week, Forsyth County remained in the high category in the CDC map, and Mecklenburg and New Hanover counties were in the medium category. It has been several days now since the CDC updated their maps. We're awaiting that. I mentioned those counties because our largest facilities are there, but you can go online and see the CDC map and look at the county you live in and see what the level of COVID transmission is there. So I'm not anticipating large spikes in cases as this masking requirements go down. In some communities, masking had already been dropped. In some parts of the country, masking, it's very striking when you travel to other states in the union, the differences and how people are approaching this. So I'm not anticipating a large spike, but we could see little pockets of COVID break out as some of the precautions are lifted. Healthcare facilities will continue to require masking at this time because of the risk to immunocompromised patients in those settings. Please remain patient with your local physician's office or hospital as they will try to remain cautious because of the need to protect those patients. So there may be instances where you're no longer required to wear a mask in other parts of town, but in healthcare facilities for now, masking will be requested until we see further decline in COVID cases and more guidance from CDC. So we're hopeful that we are transitioning from a pandemic phase of this virus where we have these large spikes and peaks in viral activity to more of an endemic phase of the virus where it's in our communities, but it's at a manageable level. And that transition from pandemic to endemic, which we've talked about before, is going to be messy. It's going to be messy probably in a lot of ways. There are individuals who have never wanted to take any precautions around COVID who will believe that the relaxing of COVID precautions is going too slowly. And on the other end of the spectrum will be individuals who do not want to turn down any of the precautions that were taken during pandemic peaks. I think the majority of people in our communities will be somewhere in the middle, not quite sure where and when to mask, and that's going to be natural in this transition phase. I suspect that all of this will induce some degree of anxiety and anger in some people. And we would ask we try to have some degree of grace and understanding for everyone involved during these changing times as we move from that pandemic to endemic phase. There will be people who are not wearing masks because they have been vaccinated and have had COVID, or they've had COVID and they feel very good about their protection. There'll be other people who continue to wear masks because they have underlying health issues or they care for individuals who do. So we just ask, please be kind. And my final personal suggestion is to continue to reduce the influence of social media on your life and thinking, particularly as it pertains to COVID and public health. The business model of social media is to create conflict and subsequent engagement with the platform. And I would ask people not to fall for that. There remains a lot of COVID misinformation online and this tribalism around these issues that's really harmful to our collective response to the pandemic. And finally, as for the future of the pandemic, that remains to be seen. There's some very smart physicians, including some smart YouTube physicians around the country who have made grand declarations and predictions over the last 2 years. And many of those predictions have not come true, so I will not attempt to do that. But we are hopeful that another variant does not come that could change the COVID landscape and require, additional healthcare interventions. But as we have learned, this pandemic has been unpredictable, and we have to be preparing for that.